Hello, everybody. My name is Barb Smith, and I am the host of Find My Team Conversations and also the CEO and founder of Find My Team, where we help you find your best college fit if you want to play sports. But now, today, we have an awesome guest with us. I'm very excited for this conversation. I honestly have my own questions for you, Kelly. So this will be a fun conversation, anyways. But for all of our listeners, this is Kelli Kilpatrick, and she's the founder and CEO of Kilpatrick College and Career Coaching, where she walks alongside student athletes. And here's the cool thing about this is, there's a lot of angst today with financial aid, and is there going to be a scholarship, and is there not going to be a scholarship, and how much is the scholarship, and the career path. I don't know what I want to be, and just the whole admission alone, college admissions is very, it speaks a different language sometimes. So having a personal guide, having a coach and a mentor and somebody that can walk you through that process has got to be the best way to do this. And in light of the economy, to have somebody to help you get some funding opportunities or scholarship opportunities or grant opportunities or anything, I think would be just a no-brainer. So the experience that comes with this conversation today is immense. And Kelli served as the senior director of graduate business programs at the University of Notre Dame. She was also the director of the graduate evening programs at the Neely School of Business. She also was an account executive and manager of college partnerships at Platform and the director of the MBA program at Texas A&M. Now, she went to Texas A&M, graduated from Texas A&M, earned a master's at the University of South Carolina, and then also earned a degree from the Harvard Institute of Higher Education. So with that experience, this is the perfect person that we need for this conversation. So Kelli, we have a plethora of questions for you, but before we get into that, you got to tell us a fun fact about yourself.
A fun fact about Kelli. Well, first of all, Barb, I love that you talked about that sometimes college admissions is a different language, because it definitely is a different language with its own rules of engagement, and I'm excited to explore those today. Secondly, a fun fact about me, I was raised on a farm in Texas. How about that?
Love it. I love
Yeah.
it. And what were your like chores on the farm? What did you have to do?
There were so many. So when I was a child growing up, we had at one time, and for Texas, it's a small farm, a smaller ranch. It was about 2,000 acres, and since has dwindled down to about 600. So my parents were, they left that to us. So I'm actually a
Oh,
farm manager at this particular point in time. We could add that to my bio.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
What?
it's not anything that I ever wanted to learn, and it's not even anything I ever wanted to go back to. But here we are. Here we are.
My gosh, how do you even have time for that? I have no idea.
Well, I mean, it was a lot I will be honest with you and tell you, it was a lot to learn. But as I look back, and you just asked me what my chores were, as I look back at the mornings that I had to wake up and go feed the pigs. Yes, I had to do that. The mornings that I had to go and feed the baby calf whose mother died at birth.
Oh,
And the times that I was out in the field with the guys to haul hay and those kinds of things. When I look back at that and I look at the things that I learned, it actually makes a lot of sense why it is that I do what I do.
well, good. This is perfect because this is my next question. How did we get here? What is what passion came to light for you to get where you are today with this whole
Yeah.
um, organization and the I know this because I know your heart's
Yeah.
into this. You're very genuine about this, so there is a passion there. So how did that happen?
It is a passion. A lot of times people say, like, how did you find the passion? And I'll just be honest with you and tell you, honestly, the passion found me. Literally, the passion found me. Um, and I have seen time and time again that that's really true for most. That if they are able to really listen to their inside voice, that they'll find their passions that come from within, and their passions are they find them. And have you ever, I want to ask you a question, like, have you ever noticed that sometimes, not always, but sometimes a doctor's child becomes a doctor, or somehow they're in medicine, or an entrepreneur's child becomes an entrepreneur? It
Yes.
happens, right? It
Yes.
happens. And so in my work, I've actually seen over and over again how what we're passionate about is oftentimes influenced by early environment and exposure. So I want to share just a little bit, and you're teasing this out because I'm the daughter of a farmer and a rural school teacher. They were two amazing human beings who, when you look at what they did, they were passionate about growing things. Passionate about growing things. One grew crops and animals, and the other one grew young people.
Interesting.
As a college undergrad, though, I majored in finance. Has nothing to do with growing anything except wealth. That does have to do with growing wealth, that's for sure.
Well,
You
that's
see, my
growing things.
mom, yeah, and it's important stuff, especially when we're talking about this topic. My mom grew up at a time when women were really mostly nurses and teachers. She was a depression baby, but she was wicked smart. She was wicked smart, and she taught herself about investing. And I know that if she had ever had an opportunity to like be an investment banker or a personal financial planner, that's what she would have done. That is totally what she would have done. So I guess she was trying to live a little bit vicariously through me. And when I went to college, I majored in finance because it was something that I was very influenced by her to do. She heavily influenced me in that pathway. I majored in finance. I did well in college. I successfully passed my securities exams right out of college. But then I found myself having a really hard time getting excited about the work and basically getting out of bed every day. Made a good living. I was financially, I was doing okay, but I just wasn't passionate about it. So I pivoted very quickly, and I actually began, when I looked at the things that I knew, again, farmer that grows crops and animals, and a mother that grows people, I knew that I wanted to grow people too. And the place that I wanted to do that in is the higher education context, because I love the rhythm of higher education. I believe that college universities have a heart and a soul. I love college game days. I love everything about the college environment. And so once I pivoted and I landed in higher education as an administrative leader, I was never faculty. I truly have never worked a day in my life. Even though I put in a ton of hours at institutions like Notre Dame and Duke and Texas A&M and Texas Christian University and others, I've really never worked a day in my life. So this feeds into my story of how did I kind of land in becoming an entrepreneur and the CEO of Kilpatrick College and Career Coaching. Well, during COVID, I was sitting on Notre Dame's campus, and Notre Dame really took a tremendous amount of pride in delivering in-person instruction. And so during COVID, even when other institutions were remaining virtual because it was just hard to be delivering anything in person, I was on the leadership team, the emergency management response team that was rewriting policies and procedures. When we were kind of rewriting the operations manual of higher education and delivering in-person instruction. And so, like many during that time, I took a really hard look at what my priorities were. And I decided to return back to my home state of Texas, which is where I'm sitting today. And that was a personal decision. I wanted to be closer to my children. I have a high value for family. I wanted to be closer to my children. And that was the perfect time for me to become an entrepreneur.
Sure. Wow.
So Kilpatrick College and Career Coaching was born.
Wow. Full
Yep,
circle. I love it.
full circle.
And I love the whole, servant attitude. I think that's the key to it, because I think if we're going to, be coaches, then if we're not serving our clients or students, then
Right.
what are we doing, right? So I love that about this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Servant attitude is, I mean, the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because I know that there are things I know because I've got the lashes on my back from 3 decades of work inside of higher education
Yeah,
that people can benefit from.
I get that.
And that only comes when you've actually been in the trenches and done it. Um, yeah.
So now you're working with high school students and college students, correct?
Yeah, let me say it this way. I coach, I'm gonna spin it just a little bit differently. Okay. I coach on the college admissions journey, including a focus on mitigating costs because people like me inside of higher education are setting tuition rates that are just enormous these days. I coach on college success and I coach on career development. So those are things that I am expert in. Now, the target audience for each of those areas can be high school students pursuing undergraduate education. It can be current college students, and it can also be adults. Really early careerist, what I refer to as an early careerist that's navigating either graduate school or career transitions.
Yeah.
That being said, where I think there is the greatest need for what I bring to the table as a coach, where I can actually serve the most, is with the families and the high school students.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm really strong in my go to market strategies in that particular target audience. But there's a pretty broad swath of people that I could be of service to within the context of the 3 pillars that I shared just a few moments ago.
So with that said, what do you find are the biggest stressors when it comes to
Yeah.
the thought of college admissions? And it might
I'll
be
tell you.
different for all those different
it-
people you just talked about, but what would they be?
Yeah. So I talk to families all day, every day, just about because I'm blessed. I'm very blessed. And as I talk to families, this is what I hear them say. And this may sound familiar to some of your listeners. It may even sound familiar to you in your line of work as you work with athletes. I bet it does. They say, I don't even know where to begin and how to make sense of it all. It's just not easy to navigate. I think they're looking for an easy button. If I had an easy button in front of me, I'd be hitting it about now because they're looking to be able to navigate it with ease. They would say, if they've been to college before themselves, they would say, it has changed so much since I went to college. It seems so competitive and it seems so complex. Or if they didn't go to college, they would say, I just don't even have a blueprint to depend on. Like I don't even know what to begin to do. And I've also heard folks say with the right in the right spirit, they share with me that their guidance counselors inside their high schools have great intentions, but they're just so busy with other more urgent issues, and that their relationships feels very transactional, like they need a transcript or they need to sign up for the SAT or the ACT. And so they're able to get some of their needs fulfilled through that resource, but not all.
I have
And
heard
it's
those same things. Yes,
yeah,
all of them, and
yep,
and that's where the angst comes in. So,
yep,
what do you think they're missing? What do you think high schools? Let's just use high school students now. High school
yeah.
students are using, are missing. I mean, in the way of preparation for college admissions and for financial aid and that whole, career path, academic route. What are
The
they
whole thing.
first and foremost?
Yeah, and so it's interesting that whether you're what in my experience, whether you are pursuing the path of being a scholarship, a college athlete or not. I mean, obviously with college athletes, there are nuanced components to their experience that you're an expert in, and I don't even touch those, right? But the things that they have in common I would say there's a few things that they would have in common. Let me start with, it's really vital for everyone who's entering into this process that when they're preparing for admissions and financial aid, there's two things to understand. There are things you can control and things that you cannot control.
It's great.
Right?
That's perfect, right?
Right. And when you focus on the things that you can control and do the best to your ability at those things, then whatever transpires thereafter, you can just be at peace with. You just be at peace with it. Because the truth of the matter is that in this process, human beings are making decisions about other human beings. And sometimes it'll go your way, and sometimes it won't go your way for reasons that could be mind-boggling to you. Like they just don't make sense. And so I think that what we've got to do in that context, in this process, is just do your best and then move on. If it doesn't go your way, just do your best and move on. Don't try to make sense of it. Don't try to make sense of it. So now that we've established that,
Great words of wisdom.
Great words of wisdom that comes with all the gray hair that I cover once a month. So now that I've kind of, we've kind of gotten that out of the way, then some other things that are missing that are, it blows my mind that, because if you have a really good blueprint, these things don't have to be difficult. So they're missing time. They're missing time. The number one thing that they're missing is sufficient time. And you should really begin the college journey in your freshman year of high school. And I know that sounds crazy early, and we literally just want to let kids be kids. So I'm not talking about super intensely, but freshman year to begin with, sophomore year at the latest. Most, in my experience, and probably in yours, wait until the end of their junior year, the beginning of their senior year. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. It's possible to navigate at that time. But to optimize the college process, I always urge families to give themselves the gift of time. You're in control of that. That's something you can control. The other thing that you can control that they're lacking is accurate information. Okay. So let me give you some examples of inaccurate information. There is this misnomer, and I have these conversations every day. There's a misnomer that to be an interesting candidate, you have to have a homeless to Harvard type of compelling story. And that's a great story. There's no doubt about that's a great story. And if that's your story, we want to tell it. But you're interesting if you have a home, and you could get into other universities. So the homeless to Harvard story is not the only way to get into college. Another piece of inaccurate information is that to gain admission, you have to be the leader of every single student organization that you're a member of, and you have to have a 4.0 GPA and have always taken AP classes and honors classes, and on and on and on.
I've heard it. Yes. This is great.
That is not true.
Right.
That is not true. Now, if you have all those things, you're a very tired person.
Who may or may not get what you want still.
You still may or may not get what you want, because again, remember, humans are making decisions about humans.
Yeah.
And another piece of information is that a private university is just too far out of reach financially for me. And my only option is a mid-priced public school in my state. And so those things are not true. As a matter of fact, it might cost, and I know that you know this, it might cost less at a private institution, and maybe not even cost you much at a private institution, depending on your academic profile. And the only way you're going to know that, you're not going to know that when your child, if your target audience is parents, when the child submits the application for admission, you're not going to know what the cost is going to be at that time. And so it's a process. You have to trust the journey. Now there are ways to have information early that I encourage people to explore. But I'd never want someone to not apply to a private institution that is the best fit for them based on price only.
I totally agree with that. I say the same thing to student athletes who are afraid of the private or
Yep.
even the Division III because they don't have
Yep.
scholarship offers, that they take those things off the table right off the bat. And
Yep.
that could be putting on the shelf the best opportunity
That's right.
that could be out there.
That's right. You could not be more right, Barb. Let me share just one more thing. It just came to my mind. The other thing that they're lacking is mature storytelling capabilities. I have designed a custom where you belong method of navigating the college journey. And step number one in my method is doing the inside work. Remember, I started off this conversation saying that my passion found me. And if I looked really deep inside and listened to my inside voice, if most people will, they'll find their passion. Well, the navigating the college admissions journey optimally for you is, first of all, not necessarily getting into your dream school. Your dream school may not be the best fit for you. And so we need to find a place where you belong. Like, really, where do you belong? Same with scholarship athletes. Like, everybody probably wants to play at the schools that are getting, that have ESPN airtime
Right.
but there are a lot of places. Maybe that's not where you belong. Maybe that's not where you belong.
Evidenced by the fact that people who go to those places and start at those places and look like they're thriving end up transferring.
Right? So let's begin first by doing some inside work. What I mean by that is you want to know and understand your true and authentic self, who you are and what's important to you. And let's land where you belong. So, and I'm not saying that where you belong is where you're most comfortable. Belonging and comfort are not necessary. They do not have to coexist. But where you belong so that you will thrive. And in those tough moments do come in college,
Right.
where you have the support system to get over that hump and grow and become the best version of yourself that you could possibly become. That's the goal. That's the goal. Because when
Amen.
you do the inside work, when you start with the inside work, that empowers you to tell your story throughout the entire college admissions journey in a really authentic and compelling way. So many people start by looking at essay prompts and begin responding to the essay prompts. And if you're going to do that, you're not going to catch my eye as someone who's reading your application for admission. But if we first start with the inside story, and if with my clients, I really help them hone the art of strong storytelling skills, because I want to be brought in when I read the application for admission and when I read the essays. I want to have a story, an arc of a story through the entire application process, where you as a person come to life for me, and maybe I haven't even met you yet in person. And you don't have to be homeless to Harvard or the 4.0 GPA or those things. So those are the things that I think are sometimes missing.
That's excellent. And so when you think about college admission, I was just thinking as you're talking about the whole COVID thing and how
Yeah.
school in general has changed and how 1.3 million people didn't return back to college afterwards. And so I'm thinking, has the college admissions process now changed, and
Oh.
how has it changed, and is it going to change in the next 5 years?
Barb, you could not have, I mean, I got chills when you start talking about it because, man, I had blood, sweat, and tears during COVID sitting on college campuses. The greatest disruption of the entire higher education industry in my lifetime, if not in history, has been in the last 5 years as a result of COVID.
Yeah.
And there are some things that have been pretty significant that have changed. I'll just mention a couple, if that's okay.
Sure.
Online delivery, for example. Online delivery seems to be a relatively new delivery method of delivery with instruction, but would you be surprised if I told you that I was working at Duke University between 2000 and 2006 with programs that were delivering in what we referred to at the time as a blended delivery model? There was a small portion of the program where students had to be on campus in person or in a location where everyone arrived together, studied together for a period of time, and then they went back to wherever it was that they lived, and then the rest of the program of instruction was delivered in what we refer to as a distributed learning channel. Basically, that means online learning. So Duke was really one of the first to market with online delivery, and they started that program. I joined them in 2000. They started that program in, I think it was, I may have the exact year wrong, but it was 1990s, either 1996 or 1998. So I really cut my teeth with virtual tools and remote students and all that 23 years ago. Wow. That was a long time before COVID.
Yeah, I would have never guessed that.
Yeah. So and so that was an anomaly at that time. And for many years. But now, in the last 5 years, institutions that you would never have thought would consider online delivery are either considering it as an option or have already made the move to that delivery model. Now, I'm not talking about entire academic institutions. I'm talking about subsets of programs within institutions that have traditionally and largely been, what we know as a 4-year academic institution. And so when geography, I mean, the truth of the matter is you just mentioned about how many people didn't return to higher education because of COVID. So when we start to see constriction in our markets, we still have bills to pay. If I'm an academic institution, we still have faculty that we have to pay salaries for and administrators that have to run those programs. And so when geography becomes a barrier to attracting students, then the institutions just have started to remove that barrier and create creative delivery models to gain market share. I mean, it's plain and simple. It's a business decision.
Yeah.
So that's been one move that we're seeing in the last 5 years. Of course, the biggest one that probably also impacts you and your work is this whole idea of test optional.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Test optional.
I mean, yeah, that's a huge change.
Actually. It's big. It's big for so many reasons. But let me give you a little peek under the hood for a second. Let me give you some little secrets. So right now, if you have parents of your athletes that are looking at the college admissions standards, as I have clients that are looking at the college admissions standards, they're not exactly sure what to do. Do we submit them? Do we not submit them? There's real lack of cohesion in the policies across the entire industry, and it leads to confusion with consumers who we serve.
Yeah.
And so what I do is, I always say, when I see the word optional, you know what word I see?
Just do it.
I see the word required.
Yeah.
Nothing. If it says optional and it's really clear right there that there's an optional essay or submitting your test is optional. Remember, there's a human on the other side about to make a decision about the human on that side. And so as the human on the other side, who has been accustomed for an entire career of looking at quantitative data first and qualitative data second, then if the quantitative data supports further strength in your academic ability to do well on my college campus, give me that information, because that's something you can, this lands in the circumference of things you can control.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
It
Quite a great just piece of trinket right there. Just a great piece of advice.
right.
Optional equals required. I mean,
Now, I will say, there are times when I would advise a client not to submit it, to take advantage of the optional lever, pull that lever. Okay. But that is a person by person coaching tactic.
yeah.
And so from a policy standpoint, what I would say is continue taking standardized exams. Take them like they matter, prepare for them like they matter. Because if it benefits you, you're going to need it, both for admission and which is separate from scholarships. I mean, we haven't even talked about scholarships yet, but we're just talking about getting an acceptance of admission.
Right.
Okay. So you can get admitted without submitting your standardized tests, but you also want to optimize merit aid, both inside the institution and outside the institution. And those systems are designed to be as fair as possible in the distribution of aid and the awarding of aid across a student population, where when we have as many quantitative measurements as possible to put people in a category, that helps me to know who to award at what level versus not. And so you're just trying to set yourself up for success to get what it is you deserve.
It's just great advice. And
Right.
and now, going a step further now, talking about the financial piece, talking about the angst that families have, in particular parents, in particular right now with the economy and all that. How do you help your clients face their fears about, we can't have that school on the list, we can't do a private at all, we can't afford it, what are your, how can you, I guess, diffuse that self-talk and the lack of confidence in those
Yeah.
situations?
So fear is fueled by often a lack of planning or lack of preparation, right? And it's also fueled by a lack of support often. Okay. That's just in general. That's whether you're stepping on the court, whether you're stepping on the field, whether you're entering into the college admission process if you're going into a job interview, right? And so again, we're looking at focus on the things you can control versus the things you cannot control. So plan early and don't go it alone. Those are two things that you absolutely can control. I would also say, again, focusing on the things you can control. Don't depend on the institutions that your child is applying for admission to award your brilliant child for their greatness. Because the competitive landscape in that brilliant child who has greatness space is fierce. There's a lot of them out there, interestingly. Now, the institution does have the ability to award, and your child may get awarded appropriately, but your child may not. So focus on what you can control versus not focus on what you can't control. And there are so many factors, that other factors that you can control, like have an open family conversation about affordability. Many times I find that families don't talk about money. They don't talk about money because talking about money is hard.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, regardless of your financial position, your child will do better if they understand the impact that this is going to make to the entire family. And also, this just came in, if they have some skin in the game. If they have some skin in the game.
So, is there such a thing as free money?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Give
There's
us
a
some
thing.
examples of
Yeah.
that. Because
So the
everyone's
two,
ears just went, "Ooh."
yeah, everybody's ears just as does mine every time I hear it, right?
Yeah.
So the two buckets of free money are grants and scholarships. Grants and scholarships. That's free money. And typically those are they're not available to everybody equally. To some people, they're not available at all. And so there are many much criteria wrapped around each, and it's a process of applying for aid and scholarships to determine whether or not you even are eligible to receive consideration. And so it's a journey of discovering, how are you going to make ends meet with the total cost of attendance, how much money we've saved as a family, what the gap is, and how we're going to fill in that gap with sources that we as a family don't have. And how you fill in that gap is through really scholarships, financial aids, and loans, which if you plan early enough, you will be able to graduate college debt free, but it takes planning. It takes planning. You have to plan early enough.
Which goes back to the whole
Does that
thing.
make sense?
Yeah, goes back to the whole thing of you saying start early enough, because the earlier you start, the more you can have this time to prepare. That's
That's
what we
right.
also tell our student athletes is the earlier in your high school career that you can start. Even we even engage eighth graders, because that's your whole thing about figuring out who you are and what you're about is a little bit of a process. And if you wait until your junior, senior year, now it's rush, 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 rush. You don't get to try stuff on. You don't get to try on a
Oh,
college.
you're so right.
Early
You
on,
are so right.
there's no limits to going to
Yeah.
see all the colleges around you and just say, hey, I like this about this campus. I like this about this.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
we're not even talking about going there yet. We're just trying stuff on. And then
Yeah.
when it gets down to be your junior, senior year, or sometimes sophomores have to make these decisions and where they're going, early, that you're equipped and prepared to be able to do that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've had people ask me before, you guys may hear a dog in the background. So I've got a little Yorkie that's right outside my home office, and he's precious, but he's yappy.
Well, that could have tripped mine if he hears it.
So Barb, you probably get this same question, but I often have people ask me, like they want to nail down, like, when should we prepare for the college journey? Like, when does that start? And honestly, I really loved what you just said, especially for athletes. Some of them have to make those decisions in their sophomore year of high school, which is just blows my mind. Like, that's unbelievable to me. And those are elite athletes, man. And they're kids. They're still just kids too. But honestly, we're really always preparing for the college journey. And there's, the financial part can start the minute that they come out of the womb by setting up investment instruments. And it doesn't have to be a lot. I think sometimes the reasons why we don't do that is because we feel like that it needs to be monumental. And the truth is that saving for college, if you start early enough, can be real incremental. And it adds up over time. Right? It adds up, it compounds and it adds up over time. So that's why financial literacy for me is like super important. And then individually, we're always preparing for the college journey, because every extracurricular activity when you're in elementary school, if you're on the soccer field or you're discerning, do I enjoy this? Do I not enjoy this? Am I good at this? Am I not good at this? So exposure early, every book that they read, every trip that they take where they're on a journey of discovery, it all becomes part of their story too. And we're always preparing for this.
Yeah.
Always preparing for this. As a matter of fact, that's why one of the exercises that I have families do with me is when they're trying, before they ever design their college list, is I want them to sit down and I want them to make a long list of at least 25 things, people, places, events, moments, experiences that were impactful in their life. There's no limit to when it happened as far as age, and nothing is too small, nothing is too big.
Yeah.
And they're like, what does this have to do with the college journey? I'm like, trust me, there's a method to the madness. This is
Yeah.
the where you belong method,
Yeah. No doubt.
right?
And what a great exercise. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So those are just some little tidbits. Those are just some little tidbits from 3 decades of lashes on my back. And what's really cool, what I find the clients that work with me, the reason why they enjoy our time together is because almost anybody or many people can get them to the point where with their application for admission, they press the submit button. What I can do is I can tell you within the next 24 hours what's happening on the other side of the curtain,
Yeah.
which is the black hole that the abyss that it's sent into, and you just sit and wait. You just sit and wait. You can do the same thing for your clients because you've been there. Like, the conversations that are happening in the boardroom, and the conversations are made about who do we offer the scholarship to versus who's a walk-on, all that. And
Right.
that just comes with being in the trenches and having done it. And sometimes that stuff changes, but a lot of that stuff remains the same,
Yeah. And
right?
the decision making for sure. The preparing for it, what you need for it,
Yeah,
how to line yourself up
yeah,
for college admissions, how to line yourself up for a scholarship,
yeah.
a roster spot, or the college of your best major. There's so
Absolutely.
many things. There's so many things that are important in this decision, and both of what we do is
Yeah,
critical to a student athlete finding the place where they can find that fit, that thriving situation where, like you said before, it's not always, doesn't mean it's easy, but it feeds you, it feeds your passions, it helps you grow, it's challenging enough,
yeah,
and it keeps you loving going to college and or
yeah.
playing sport.
I agree. I love, Barb, that we've been connected as professionals that are professional coaches who, we have a lot in common. We have both been on college campuses and done it. And now what we're wanting to do is to give back to the industry that gave so much to us, but do it not in the professional sense, in the coach, like in a professional network, but in a coaching network. And I'm sure you probably do. I find that um I really do feel that the value that I'm offering to folks who see that this is a journey that they could do it alone, but they're going to do it a heck of a lot better when they have someone that's walking alongside them. What I see is a level of confidence that's increased.
No
I
doubt.
see that they're really giving themselves the best opportunity to succeed because they've got a guide, you know,
I
and
totally,
someone who they can trust. There's so much misinformation out there, but somebody that they can trust.
I always
And
say,
that's, yeah,
if they can own this process, then they're
yep.
giving themselves permission to own their future, which is exactly what everybody in their support group should want for them.
Man, I love that. Say that again. That's worth saying again.
If they own this process,
Yeah,
then they're giving themselves permission to own their future.
yeah,
And that's what everybody in their support group should want for that person,
yeah,
is to be able to do that. Like, be confident enough to go and get what you want.
yeah, yeah.
So how can
Well,
people find you? What do
oh, well, let me just say, let me tell you what I don't have yet. I don't have a website. I literally have been so busy. I haven't even had an opportunity to put some just formal structures in place so that the random person can find me because I've been in higher education for so long that I've got so many people who've graduated from the institutions that I serve that I have a global network and I have a really deep and broad network, and so a lot of people know where to find me, and so there's not a lack of opportunity here.
Oh, yeah.
But here's what I would say.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say. Even without all that stuff, you can find me quickest on Facebook. Kelli Taylor Kilpatrick is my personal Facebook page that I've turned into the primary place where I post things on a daily basis related to the college journey. The way in which I support people, support families, is one-on-one coaching. And then I also have some group-based coaching. That's the way that I can scale. There's only one of me, and there's a lot of you guys. And I have clients that are all over the United States, because this is not the process is not geographically bound either. So, but there's a
Awesome.
lot of ways you can reach out to Barb. Barb knows how to get to me. Barb knows how to get to
Absolutely,
me
absolutely.
in
I'm
a minute.
a full believer here in what you're doing, and so thankful that you are doing it, because I know there are lots of students and families who need this service and want it and would benefit highly from it. So, Kelli, thank you so much for being here. Thanks to all of our listeners, and the information is down below to reach Kelli and or find my team. And we'll see you at the next one. Kelli, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.